Now, we've all experienced fear on a motorcycle, like coming into a corner too hot. But why does it happen? Where does this fear come from, and what can we do about it? That's what we're going to cover today. 5 reasons you fear taking corners faster on your motorcycle. And I'm going to give you the solution that fixes this very fast. Now, number 1, that's thought control. You probably don't have control of your thoughts. Most people don't. Some people do to a certain degree, but usually people don't. Now, it's estimated that people have upward of 50,000 thoughts per day. Think about that. That's over 2 or 3 thoughts per second. No wonder you can't see them. And that's the problem. People don't see what they're actually thinking. Most people don't even understand where their thoughts come from or why they're generated. Now, that's a big problem because your thoughts create emotion, but they also make you act. They action things. You see, your mind tends to run away very easily. Let's say you're on your motorcycle, coming up to a corner, and your first thought is, I'm going too fast. Well, things can cascade very quickly into, shit, what do I do now? And that's quickly followed by, what happens if I blah, 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 something bad, and I better slow down fast right now. And before you know it, you're jamming on the front brake too hard in a panic. You either come undone or you have a near miss. So of course, the next time you're riding your motorcycle and you're approaching a corner, it's quite possible that emotion wells up, fear is generated, and the cycle repeats, or you go really slow. Number 2 is experience. Experience counts for a lot. The more you go faster, the more normal faster becomes. Fast is normal after a while. And the opposite happens. You ride around really slow. If you plod through corners continually, going slow through corners becomes normal. Now, if your experience becomes an accumulation of plodding and going slow through corners all the time, once you go a little bit faster, at the very least, you're going to feel uncomfortable. Or, of course, it can generate a lot of emotion like fear. It's a bit of a cliche, really. You've got no experience, so how do you get it without experiencing? You've got to go out and push yourself beyond your comfort zone to gain experience. Number 3, belief. Now, beliefs are very powerful. We've all heard the expression, you've got to believe to achieve. When it comes to believing, we're moving further on from the last point, which was you haven't yet done something. So now, if you haven't seen someone else do it, perhaps you haven't even heard of it, it's really hard to do that or to believe that you can do that yourself. Because if you look around at the world you live in and try and find people who are brave and have unwavering faith in themselves, belief, they're far and few between. So if you don't yet have belief and you haven't seen it done, you're going to have uncertainty and a fear of the unknown. Normal, really. You probably don't think you can take the corner ahead any faster. Now, one of the ways I overcome this is by
holy crap!
And you want to support the channel, check out the Old Not Dead merchandise. If you don't ride a Harley and you wear Old Not Dead gear, you will look as cool as if you were on a Harley. If you already have a Harley, blast off, show the world you're old, not dead. Way to go.
Representing.
We've got t-shirts in different colours, different logos, caps, beanies, stickers, patches, key rings, everything. You probably don't think you can take the corner ahead any faster. Now, one of the ways I overcome this is by finding and riding with people who are just a little bit faster than you. Now, that's fraught with danger. You've got to be really careful that your ego doesn't come in. We all know that it's not a good idea to try and keep up with faster riders, except when it's a good idea. The trick is to reel in your ego and understand your own skill limitations. I remember the first track day I ever did on the superbike. You're coming into a corner, going as fast as you can, braking as hard as you can, and then somebody zooms past on the inside and brakes much later than you. And of course, they're much quicker than you. All of a sudden, you've seen it done, and you know that on the next lap, you can brake a lot harder and further into the corner. It's doable. Now you can push yourself a little bit harder, hopefully with a good result. And that's the thing, belief is often built by understanding or knowing the why about something, what it's made up of, and the reason that it's true.
Born to be this high, my friend.
Number 4 is trust your equipment. You've got to trust your motorcycle. That's your equipment. If you don't trust your motorcycle and its suspension, its frame geometry, the fantastic brakes that it's got, your tyres, well, it's going to create fear. I think of it this way, most motorcycles can lean far more than the rider's ability. And that's especially true for us Harley riders. Your lean angle is never going to be more than about 34%, and your tyres, I guarantee, are going to do better than that. So give it a try, scrape those floorboards. Trust comes from practice, testing, and experience. I remember I got myself a beautiful Triumph Thruxton R. I just spent decades riding a Fat Boy in this lovely upright position. And I've gone straight onto the Thruxton R, which is basically a retro cafe racer. I've jumped onto my Thruxton R with a little bikini fairing and drop handlebars straight into the push-up position. Now the bike was fantastic. It had great brakes, very sticky tyres, awesome suspension, more than enough power, but it was my first ride on the twisties, less than a week into ownership. And I've gone out with a friend of mine who's an ex-superbike instructor, and he's introduced me to a third person as, shit, this guy can ride quick. So I knew, coming from a superbike instructor, I was in for an interesting day. Now I probably couldn't have kept up with them anyway, but being a new bike and being so unfamiliar with it, there's no way I would have any trust in the equipment. It was absolutely impossible to get anywhere near them on the corners. So I didn't really get a chance to do my riding ability any justice. The bike was capable, no problem at all. I caught up with them easily on the straights. We were riding on the road, and the top speed of 230 is fine to keep up with most people. But going from an armchair to a push-up position, geez, I was uncomfortable in those corners. Number 5, survival reactions. We all have survival reactions, instinctive actions that kick in when we or our body senses danger. You automatically do things that you think or believe will keep you safe. Things like target fixation, which is sort of a panic reaction of looking and fixating at where you don't want to go or at an object that you don't want to hit. It's a survival reaction. What about something simple like tightening your arms and giving your motorcycle the death grip, trying to hold on really tight so that you'll be safer, and of course preventing your motorcycle from doing what it's supposed to do. Now these actions actually have thoughts behind them, and those thoughts generate the emotion of fear. That's the nature of a survival reaction. Now you can argue that fear is good for you, fear keeps you safe, and I've got to agree a little bit of fear is good for you, but the problem is we don't want to generate so much fear and emotion that it prevents us from thinking clearly, and it prevents us from actioning in the right way. And if you watch people who react with fear, they're often overwhelmed. Now, these types of automatic reactions can be overcome with practice and training, knowing beforehand what you'll do in a certain situation and practicing that action, even practicing that action in your mind over and over again. The correct action works too. So what's the solution? The solution is to be present. So presence is another way of saying be in the now. And that's a solution to all of these problems and a lot of other problems that aren't even motorcycle related. Some people call this mindfulness. I steer away from that term because it's often a watered down version, but essentially it means teaching yourself to stay out of daydreams. And I know everyone's different, but most people spend the majority of their time either caught deeply in thought, fantasy, or daydreams. And if you can't see your thoughts, you won't even know you're doing it. And I've seen people try and argue this, but I always say to them, if you can't see your thoughts, you can't really argue against that because you don't even know that you're doing it. So there are techniques that you can use that pull you out of that daydream state and help you balance in the present, in the now. A good technique to use is to tune into your 5 senses. If you're doing that properly, that will put you into a being present state. That way you're going to see what you're actually thinking, and being able to see what your thoughts are will allow you to problem solve, because it's your thoughts that create the problems, and being able to see them allows you to address what's going on internally. So if you're coming into a corner and your first 2 thoughts are, shit, I'm going to crash, Slam on those brakes, boy. So if you see those thoughts, you'll understand what's generating fear and what's prompting you to act in a certain way. And that means you can override your automated survival mode. You won't automatically, in a panic, slam on the front brake, and you won't fixate on the guardrail. You're going to be able to override that and do something like lean further and look for the exit out of the corner. It's that simple, but of course, like many things, it takes practice. Now, I've taught this sort of thing for decades to different people, so look out for an upcoming online course that you'll find on our website, oldnotdead.club. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not a substitute for skill. You've still got to practice and improve your technical motorcycle riding skills. In other words, your physical cornering skills. But for sure, what's going to happen is the emotion that blocks you moving forward, the emotion that blocks your progress, the emotion that is overwhelming fear is not going to be there anymore. Now, if you like today's video, you're going to love this video. How much horsepower do you really need on a motorcycle? More.
Using all that's left somewhere in your chest, when your sweetheart hit a mist. Oh,